Good morning Year 6 and welcome to another home learning lesson. Today we'll be looking at Viking life. Today's learning objective is to be able to identify and explain key aspects of Viking life. Over time, many Vikings came to settle permanently in Britain. With your home teacher, discuss and answer the following questions. Why do you think the Vikings chose to settle in Britain? What do you know about the way Vikings lived? What customs and ways of life did they bring with them? And what would you like to find out about Viking life? When the Vikings first came to Britain, they raided, took what they could, and went home again. In 850 AD, some Vikings stayed in Britain over the winter for the first time on the Isle of Thanet, enjoying the milder climate and making use of the rich natural resources. In the later part of the 9th century, Vikings started to look for places that they could take for their own and settle more permanently, and by 866 AD they had taken the city of York. The Vikings went on to capture more places, and many made Britain their permanent home, integrating with the local people and merging traditions and customs. Social history is all about looking at the experiences and daily lives of ordinary people from the past. It also explores how people interact together and form relationships. Religious history is all about looking at the religious experiences and beliefs of people from the past. It explores how people worshipped their gods and what gods they believed in and what traditions or customs they had. Cultural history is all about looking at how the knowledge, traditions, arts and customs a group of people define who they are. The different aspects of history overlap to combine a full understanding of life in the past. Your challenge today is to produce a poster about certain aspects of Viking life. This could be clothing and jewellery, religion and gods, houses and food, rhymes and writing, art and craft. You will need to take notes as you go through today's lesson, selecting the information that is relevant for your poster. Unfortunately, the information in this lesson has got rather muddled up, so you'll have to listen, read and think carefully to make sure you choose and record the correct information. Vikings used whatever natural resources were available to make their houses. Typically, this might have been stone or wood for the walls, a thatched straw roof, and a wattle or dowd, which is sticks and mud and dung, on the sides of the walls to keep the heat in. Viking metal workers made objects from a wide range of different materials, from iron to gold. Vikings wrote using characters from an alphabet called the Thuruk. Jewellery was worn to show off how rich a person was. When the Vikings first came to Britain, they were pagans, which means they worshipped many gods. Over time, many Vikings converted to Christianity. Most Vikings wore clothes made of wool and linen. Men wore trousers and tunics, which were fastened at the waist with a leather belt. Women wore long-sleeved linen dresses under a woolen apron-type dress. The individual letters of the Viking alphabet were called runes. There were 16 runes in total. The Vikings made their own bread by grinding corn into flour and then mixing it with water to make a dough. The Vikings kept an open fire in their houses to provide heat and a place to cook. They hung meat and fish above the fire to preserve them with the smoke. They also preserved by curing, which is drying things out with salt. Rich Vikings wore clothes made of silk, which the Vikings traded from overseas. They also had furs to wrap around themselves to keep warm. Jewellery makers engraved abstract animal shapes and patterns of interlaced crisscrossing lines and brooches and other items such as handles on swords. The Vikings used rhymes to tell long stories, known as sagas. Sagas often told about the adventures of heroic characters fighting dangerous monsters. Leather was commonly used by craftsmen to make a wide range of objects such as purses, saddles for horses, and belts. As Vikings converted to Christianity, their customs and festivals also changed, merging together with old and new religions. For example, the pagans' festival of Yuletide became Christmas. The Vikings believed that when the gods, Thor, drove his chariot pulled by goats through the sky, he created thunder and lightning. Thor also had a special weapon, a hammer. The Viking chief god was called Odin, and his wife, the goddess of marriage and fertility, was called Frigg. Evacuation of Viking graves have shown that Viking women wore two brooches, one on each side of their chest. These were probably to hold up their dresses. The Vikings believed that Odin lived in Valhalla. This was a type of heaven where warriors who had died bravely in battle would go. Vikings ate from a wooden bowl or a plate using a spiky knife. Forks were not invented until much later in history. Vikings loved to make up riddles and skillfully choosing words to describe a thing or object without saying its name. The Vikings made dyes from plants to create different colours for their clothing, like red cloth was made by using a plant called madder. Most Vikings lived on farms where they grew their own crops, such as oats and wheat. They also kept animals such as cows, pigs, sheep, which provided milk, wool and meat. Viking runes were only made of straight lines, as they were much easier to carve into stone and rock. Bone and antler were commonly used by skilled craftsmen to make objects such as combs and handles for knives. The pagan Vikings believed in life after death, so people were buried with their possessions when they died so that they could use them in the afterlife. Woodworkers could carve very intricate patterns into wood. Churches built by Vikings were often made of wood and featured beautifully carved scenes and interior decor. Fortune tellers were very popular in Viking times. Runes were carved on small stones, and the fortune teller would pull these out of a bag one at a time, reading the fortune as runes were revealed. Some Vikings drank beer from horns which had been scraped out. Jorvik, or York, was an important Viking manufacturing centre, and many craftsmen worked on the streets producing a range of items. Coppergate, a place in the city of York, means Street of the Cup Maker. Vikings often wore cloaks to keep warm in cooler weather. These were made of wool or linen, and sometimes leather. Now you've heard some facts about Viking life. Choose which area you would like to create your poster about. Well done, Year 6. That's the end of another lesson. I'd love to see your Viking life posters, so please take some pictures and send them into school. And I'll see you tomorrow for another home learning lesson.